Hey everybody, welcome to the closing bell here at MarketStream.live. My name is Joseph Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. Here to wrap up all of today's minimalistic trading activity. Yep, it's minimal activity day. Basically, with the minimal movement that we saw Monday, set the tone for Tuesday's action. We finished basically with most of the indices just slightly in the green. We have the large cap indices like the NASDAQ up 0.2%. We have the Dow Jones up 0.2%. They eked out some small gains. We have the S&P 500 basically flat, but we did have the Russell 2000 down 0.3%. So that was the laggard of the day. That's something that we want to keep an eye on, especially for not getting any transparency or push on those infrastructure projects, tax reform, and so on, as far as what's coming from the Trump administration. Now, counter-cyclical sectors, well, they had the slight advantage today. You had a little bit of maybe some movement towards taking a more passive stance, or at least a little bit of a protectionist stance. Consumer staples were up 0.8%, take it XLP. That was the leader. With Church & Dwight, CHD up $1.82 at 47.27. They reported better than expected earnings and they raised its dividend. On the cyclical side, you had technology holding up the market. Basically, it was up 0.4% as a sector. Apple continued to shine, seeing price levels we've never seen at 131.53, up $1.24. Industrials weren't far too behind. XLI up 0.2%. That was really the only other cyclical sector that was to the upside. Emerson Electric was the biggest driver. Shares popped about 4.5% up at 62.54. Beat on the top and bottom line estimates and gave upbeat guidance for 2017. Now, General Motors, on the other hand, they were a laggard all day long. After earnings down $1.73 at 35.10, they had a positive quarterly result before the opening bell this morning, but basically earnings took a back seat. Looks like that there was a 3.8% year-over-year decline in January sales, and lo and behold, people are starting to get a little bit apprehensive of that if we get a protectionist or a tariff-based war going on that could hit GM. And we saw that GM did finish the day down 4.7%. We also saw that Ford was down ever so slightly in sympathy, down about 18 cents at 12.34, down about 1.4%. Now, consumer discretionary struggled all day. XLY down 0.1%. Basically just could not escape that selling pressure coming from the automakers. Now, financials, down to XLF down 0.2%, and materials, XLB down 0.8%. But energy continues to take it on the chin, down 1.4%. There's a myriad of concerns here. There's one of the biggest is the U.S. Production increase. We've seen it with the continued increase in rig counts here in the U.S., and we're also seeing that along the same lines as slowing demand growth is coming online. So even though we have $50 crude, demand growth continues to decrease. The dollar index did pop a little bit up, 46 cents. That wasn't a helper on the crude. Basically we see now crude challenging $52 to the downside. So it looked like it could gravitate towards that $50 support level. Speaking of the U.S. dollar movement, it was rooted in comments from Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker. Basically, yesterday evening, he stated that he would be open to a March rate hike, but that popped the dollar. But if you basically take a look at the Fed funds futures tool, right now, the probability that they're going to raise rates is only about 8.9%. So I'm not seeing it. But again, they had Fed presidents out over the last 24 hours that are basically saying that it is still on the table, but the Fed funds futures are not indicating that and are basically showing less than a 10% probability of that occurring. All right, folks, we have quite a few earnings announcements. Go back and check out what we were talking about at Tech Talk. We gave a lot of perspective on 4 or 5 names that we're reporting tonight. And we're going to take a look at that early tomorrow morning here at MarketStream.live. We'll take a look at all of the overnight action and the pre-market action with our 3 shows then. So join us here at MarketStream.live. Thanks.